Ah, my dear shadow seekers, welcome back to the abyss, where whispers take form, where echoes are not of your voice alone, but of something deeper, darker. I'm Violet Nocturne, and tonight I invite you into an experiment, a story woven from unseen frequencies. Have you ever thought about the sounds you do not hear, but can sense? The hum beneath the silence, the invisible signals that brush against your sanity as delicately as a spider's web? No, don't shift uncomfortably now. You're safe, for the moment. Our story begins with Dr. Cecilia Gray, an independent sound engineer, celebrated for her revolutionary studies on audio frequencies beyond the human register. Her life was one of solitude, marked only by the rhythmic hum of her equipment and the haunting stillness of her custom-built lab. It was then, late one winter evening, as frost kissed her lab windows, she received an anonymous package. No sender's address, just her name scratched in shaky letters. Inside, she found a recording device and a series of tapes, each labeled with cryptic symbols, as though etched by trembling hands. "Sounds from the abyss," the note claimed. Intrigued, Cecilia set to decipher the material, her fame driven primarily by curiosity and sound the rest of us would never detect. The first tape was utterly silent to her unaided ear. Even when amplified, it carried nothing audible. However, her spectrogram began to sing. A series of rhythmic patterns emerged, but they weren't entirely random. They felt organic, almost conversational if you would assign a voice to chaos. Whatever the source, it was consistent. Too consistent for coincidence. But Cecilia felt no threat at first, only fascination, a fascination that soon blossomed into obsession. You see, my darlings, sanity is built upon the scaffolding of predictable reality, and hers was about to crack. Dr. Gray began chasing the meaning behind these sounds, staying awake for days, combing libraries, logging patterns. Her social circle, once composed of would-be intellectuals admiring her methods, began to disappear as she grew more erratic, dismissively labeling friends and colleagues as distractions. Weeks went by before she ventured to play the second tape under the same rigorous analysis. This time, the spectrogram didn't merely reveal dancing signals, it painted shapes, strange, discordant formations that looked eerily humanoid. Humanoid but wrong, too distorted to fit any earthly anatomy. One night, sleep-deprived and emotionally frayed, she awoke to the faint chiming of her equipment operating by itself. A malfunction? She dismissed it hurriedly. Yet, when she analyzed her system's logs, irregular signals had crept into her project's storage at precisely 3:03 a.m. It was the same rhythmic sequence as the first recording, but there was one unsettling addition: the whisper of her name. Cecilia. Her once commanding facade started to crumble as she played it back again and again, feeling that she must have constructed some error herself. Logical minds will do anything to dismiss a touch of the unreal. You do believe in logic as your savior, don't you? Her isolation deepened as days bled into nights. One morning she woke not in the lab chair where she last sat, but sprawled upon the lab floor, shivering. The third tape lay in her trembling hand, yet she couldn't recall retrieving it. Her hands fumbled as she inserted it into the recorder. This time, there were no rhythms, no shapes, only silence. But oh, darling, silence is not absence. Silence is a predator, waiting to strike. The moment she tilted her head toward her antiquated speakers, the silence broke into a deafening shriek. She yelped, yanking her headset from her ears, just as a chilling apparition reflected behind her. A shadow slithered across her polished steel equipment. Shades don't adhere to the laws of life. Oh no, they listen to the laws of hunger, and Cecilia was now their audience. There were no more tapes, but the frequency, once an intellectual pursuit, would not leave her alone. It lingered on every electronic device she owned, on every signal her finely tuned ears could detect. Sleep became impossible. The ghostly shapes from the spectrogram began to solidify in the glossy apparatus's surfaces. And then, one dreadful moment, they began to step through. We leave Cecilia now, my dear listeners, not as you might expect, gripped by claw and fang. No, her fate is far more chilling. She returned to her once pristine lab, a woman reborn. A herald, if you will, carrying the whispers of something ancient. Once hunting frequencies, she now creates them, sending them through radio towers around the world. Perhaps, tonight, those whispers might grace your dreams, concealing more than the murmurs of your subconscious. Ah, but fret not, my darlings. As your humble guide, I leave you with a warning. Sometimes, the silence speaks louder than screams, and sometimes, the whispers aren't just your imagination. Truth be told, the void is never empty. Until we meet again in another dark corner of your psyche, rest well, if you dare.